Well, hello and welcome to HMI Book Club. My name is Mark Gravelle, and I've been a certified hypnotherapist and instructor here at HMI for more than 20 years. On this show, we explore how self-improvement books can be a valuable resource for helping yourself and your hypnotherapy clients. I can't stress enough how important it actually is to dedicate at least a third of your time with your clients, teaching them something new. So today, I'm going to talk about the book How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins. Okay, How to Master the Art of Selling. You know, before I get into the book, I just want to share a little personal experience here, because in a sense, aren't we all salespeople? We're all salespeople. We all want to get our point across. We want to talk people into things, maybe talk people out of things. Sometimes people come to us for help, and they want to be talked into or talked out of something. So in effect, we're all salespeople. And it just comes with the territory of life. And so I just want to share, hopefully, a brief personal experience with you, because there was a point in my life, and the point here is that we all come to hypnotherapy from different fields and different careers. And let's not forget that we can use our experiences within those fields, careers, whatever, and all of our personal experiences, as we can use that experience to help our clients as well. So one of the experiences I had that I found very helpful, especially when I started a practice, was at one point in my life, I found myself doing something that I would absolutely never have ever guessed that I would do. And the circumstance was that I was a professional musician, but my first wife wanted to move back to her little town in Pennsylvania, which I acquiesced to, and there wasn't much music work there. So I was kind of between a rock and a hard place. I needed a job, I needed some income. And I saw an advertisement in the paper for a salesperson. I never thought I would ever be a salesperson, because I had all the stereotypical attitudes towards salespeople that a lot of us have. You know, they're pushy, and they're to be avoided, and things like that. But I did become actually a sales representative for Prudential Life Insurance. And it turned out I learned some lessons there that I'm continuing to use even to this day, after more than 20 years, more than 22 years of practice. And one of the first, and that's like simply learning that we're all salespeople. And one of the first sales training meetings was given by this guy, believe it or not, Vinny from Philadelphia. And Vinny was a real character. He was a short Italian, kind of stocky guy, but he had some really good points. And his first point was, he said, simply look around the room that you're in. Look at this TV set, the set here, all these lights, the cameras. He says, none of this would be here unless somebody hadn't sold it. So his point also was that nothing moves in life until something's sold. Now, when we boil that down to our practice in hypnotherapies, we're salespeople too. And not only are we salespeople with our clients, we're salespeople with all the people that we have relationships in our life, because we, in effect, want to sell our ideas. And we want to sell, or again, talk people into or talk people out of things. And that's part of our job. And so knowing some very basic sales techniques can be very, very helpful. I'll tell you one of the things that I did learn from Vinny, the sales trainer from, there's two things. He said it's not, and this is also helpful, if salespeople come to us to improve their jobs or their careers in sales. And one of the things he said, it's not who you fail to sell, it's who you fail to see. Meaning, it's a numbers game. Life is a numbers game. The more people we see, the more people we'll sell. Just like as hypnotherapists now, we have to get out and we have to network. We have to let people know what we can do. So, in fact, I, a long time ago, adopted a little bit of philosophy which basically goes like this, that the only reason I may not be seeing more clients is because the right people don't know I'm available. And one of the other valuable lessons that Vinny taught was, he says, some of you will become very successful at this and you'll make a lot of money, but just remember one thing. He says, at the exact moment that you think you a big a shot, you will cease being a big a shot. And that is so true. When we get too big a head, too big a ego, it's true. Now, to get into some of the basic sales techniques, How to Master the Art of Selling, this is a book. It actually first came out in 1980, which is a long time ago, 31 years ago. But it's still around, it's still available. You can still get it on Amazon. But Tom Hopkins really is a master sales trainer. The first thing he points out is something that we've come to be able to teach here, not from the book so much, but from our E&P book, is that in both my mentors, John and Drs. John and Alex Kappas, used to talk about this. Any relationship that we have in our life is like two people in a dance, or when you're holding on to each other. And so if this person here is pushing, it forces the other person to back up. And that's basically one of the first things he talks about in this sales training, or How to Master the Art of Selling. So what he teaches is how to back up, not how to push. Isn't that what we dislike about salespeople, is that they're too pushy? Okay. Especially, when you hear these ads come on. Go down to Mike Thompson, RVA, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, man, it's just too much. And it has a tendency to push a lot of people away. But that's the stereotypical salesperson. He's talking about being a smart salesperson. And sometimes we have to sell an idea, a concept to a client that may help them really significantly improve how they function in life and basically the value of their everyday experience. So the first thing he talks about in the book is the concept of using what he calls a tie-down. We even teach this in our course here at HMI. At some point, I think it's in 201. But what a tie-down is basically, even before I get to what the tie-downs are, is the way you pull a person rather than push them is you ask the right questions. That's the basic idea of what you want to be able to do, is ask the right questions, leading the person to the conclusion that you would prefer them to come to. Rather than push them, tell them, you need to do this, you need to do that, that's just going to push them away. But by learning how to ask the right questions, or by asking questions, is usually a much more valuable technique to get your point across. So he's got a whole thing. As a matter of fact, this is his chapter 3, question right and sink your teeth into sales success. And it turns out he's very accurate about this. And he uses, and he recommends what are called tie-downs, okay? Tie-downs are when you basically end a standard sentence with a couple of words that make the sentence into a question, all right? In other words, one of his examples here, fuel economy is very important today, isn't it? The isn't it part is the tie-down, all right? She has 18 standard tie-downs here that you'll find useful. But basically, as you're interacting and talking to people, you can turn any statement actually into a question by using the tie-down. Aren't they, aren't you, can't you, couldn't it, doesn't it make sense? Now that's what's called an inverted tie-down, because you put the tie-down portion at the beginning of the sentence. But you can make any statement to a client or whomever you're attempting to sell an idea to or a concept to. And he's even got exercises in here. And as a matter of fact, for clients, I've actually copied this out of the book, which I don't know if it's an infringement of copyright or not, but I give this to clients. And recently, I had a client come in, and she happens to be a very high physical, sexual female, and she'd been coming to HMI for years. Originally, she was a client of Dr. John Kappas, and I started seeing her about actually 8 years ago. And she comes in little periods and she came in and she says, you know, I just seem to be pushing my kids away. I want my one kid to take this job, and my other kid's involved in a relationship, and it seems to be going nowhere. But she says, you know, eventually they just tune me out. And so I explained to her, you got to learn how to pull them, not push them. And that's the point. And so for salespeople, and just people even in basic relationships, the use of tie-downs could be very, very effective. He's even got these exercises in here. Many progressive companies are using computers today. That's how dated this is. And so you're supposed to supply the tie-down, aren't they? All right, for instance, anytime, he talks about champions as well, how to become a champion of sales. She's chosen some lovely colors, hasn't she? That's the tie-down technique. So, and then of course he talks about something called the inverted tie-down. That's where you use the tie-down first, okay? His example here is, can't you really control it great once you get used to the feel of it? Maybe talking about a car. But that's the inverted tie-down, using the question part of it first. Another version, he calls it the internal tie-down, is in the center. Well, actually that was it. Once you get used to the feel of it, can't you really control it? Another variation of the internal form is more obviously a tie-down. You can really control it well, can't you, once you get the feel of it? But you see how they're all questions. A typical therapy question is, wouldn't it be better if you became a little more rejection-proof? Wouldn't that enable you to perhaps take more risk in your sales and making your calls? Anyway, that's the basic idea of tie-downs. Now, it's time for a break. Stay tuned, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion of How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins. About the book How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins. Okay, How to Master the Art of Selling. You know, before I get into the book, I just want to share a little personal experience here, because in a sense, aren't we all salespeople? We're all salespeople. We all want to get our point across. We want to talk people into things, maybe talk people out of things. Sometimes people come to us for help, and they want to be talked into or talked out of. For helping yourself and your hypnotherapy clients. I can't stress enough how important it actually is to dedicate at least a third of your time with your clients, teaching them something new. So today, I'm going to talk about, well, hello and welcome to HMI Book Club. My name is Mark Gravelle, and I've been a certified hypnotherapist and instructor here at HMI for more than 20 years. On this show, we explore how self-improvement books can be a valuable resource